In studio tonight with us, our two special guests. We're talking a little bit tonight about vicarious trauma. And again, this really has to do with this idea of this Trump anxiety disorder. And we've seen this kind of rising. Social media has been just rife with the anger, really between the right and the left. Families have been broke. I literally know families that no longer talk to each other now because of this whole Trump issue. Ahmed, when we were talking just before the break a little bit about, trying to recognize this and bringing it to the frontal cortex, and that's kind of the first step. When you're counseling people, do you run into this a lot? I mean, is this part and parcel of things you're running into with people?
So, yes, I did. So I got to experience, first-hand trauma and vicarious trauma in different forms. And the most important thing that I learned through that experience is that the first step is to recognize that these feelings are valid, that it's not only you that feels these feelings, that there is a community out there that is experiencing it. And that's what helped me kind of get on the first step of fixing, healing from these feelings. Whether you are experiencing it first, like hand through yourself, like a loss of status or money, as we said before, or it's your family members or a friend that is having this loss, you're a caseworker or an advisor that has helped, and you see your clients going through these things, you walk back from to home with these feelings. And at first, just because they were, I felt that their suffering was bigger than my suffering, so it kind of prompted this feeling for me that my struggle is not valid compared to theirs. So I didn't really put a lot of time to caring for myself because I was like, oh, but I'm not important. I'm settled now, I'm safe, and they are suffering, so I'm not really important. But that after a while, after working 2 years in a cancer hospital and being an interpreter that is helping refugees process their cases, and you see the day-to-day politics affecting their day-to-day life, as you said, that the Trump era has that disorder, that kind of stress. It can materialize in people's lives, and I think just being aware of it and give it some kind of legitimacy that it is important what you're feeling, everyone else is feeling, is the first step towards healing from it.
Well, this is something that we work a lot on this show for, and I take I get a lot of grief for the stuff we say here on the show because we're on a very conservative radio station, but I don't necessarily just carry the Trump for water, carry the water for Donald Trump. And it's no matter what he does, it's just, he can't be wrong and it's got to be right. And look, there's a lot of hosts out there that simply do that. Regardless of what happens, they just support it full. And then conversely, on CNN and MSNBC, it doesn't matter what he does, good, bad, or indifferent. It's always bad. And there's all this negativity on the other side. We try to be very focused in the middle and say, look, these are the facts, and this is what's happening, and this is what we need to understand about this going forward and what the outcomes are likely to be. But that's not well received because people on the right, they're completely grounded into the fact that Donald Trump's their guy and they're going to support him no matter what. The people on the left are completely grounded in the fact that he's the devil incarnate, and there's really no breaking through that. So if I'm have to deal with somebody who has an opposing opinion, either way, right? So I'm on the left and I'm dealing with somebody that's very conservative on the right, or vice versa. How do you start to broach that conversation to have a real dialogue rather than just a shouting match?
I may have an alternative solution to this, and one of the ways
walk away.
Walk away is one of that, but one of the tools can be from NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and that's again linguistics coming in, and that's the term called chunking up. So if you ask the question,
wait, chunking up.
Chunking up.
I think I do this well. I eat a lot.
There we go.
Pizza,
that means that
hamburgers.
asking the question for what purpose. So let's say the wall. Why are we trying to build the wall? For what purpose? For national security. For what purpose? To make the country safer. And eventually, at a very higher level, I don't know, when you get to the world peace, right? Both of the sides may agree, because I don't think both sides will disagree on a very higher level. Maybe it's galactic peace, And then once you reach a point where you agreed, the tension will be a little bit less.
But it seems to me, and it seems to me that no matter what the argument is, that you never actually get to that higher level. as an example, the wall's a great example of this. I was just down in Mexico last week and on vacation, and we had some drivers that drove us around, and I'm always asking people questions, right? I'm just one of those guys. I annoy my wife tremendously because she's like, just shut up, you're gonna get us killed. But I'm like, I asked him about AMLO, their new president, and what he thought about him, because he's very socialist in nature, is a very diametrically opposed president than what they had before. But then I started asking about, their thoughts about Trump and the border wall, and surprisingly enough, the citizens of Mexico, people that just live in Mexico, just normal everyday working guys, they're like, I'm fine with a wall. We would like one on the south of our country as well to stop all the people that are coming in from South America into Mexico because they take our jobs. They have very much the same ideas that we have in terms of national security, border security, those type of things. And they're completely fine with that because they want their families to be safe. Their big worry is the cartels. I mean, that is a huge concern for them. They just want somebody to help resolve that issue. They're afraid to go out into their public because of the cartels. Here, though, when you talk about the border wall, you never get to the point of saying, well, if we have national security, wouldn't that be great? You never get to that point. Well, because as soon as you talk about building a wall, but all these people that are coming here illegally, and doesn't matter that we just need all the immigrants in the world. We just need to have 7 billion people in the United States, and then we'll all be happy. You never get to that logical conclusion or that logical discussion, and that seems to be the problem. And how do you deal with that?
Well, I think one of the ways to deal with that is just acknowledge that there is that level of division. And this is the reality that we're living with right now. And it's a very painful reality for both sides. And that the reality may be there for some time until either the media changes the way they cover the story. They're both sides. They're valid points on all sides of all arguments.
Sure. And there's no argument about that. But the problem for me is the media it seems to is very self-serving in its nature. It only presents one side of every story. Like I said earlier, we try to present both sides here so people can make an informed decision. But if you listen to CNN, you only get one side of the story. If you listen to Fox News, you only get one side of the story. Both stories have facts of truth in them, but both stories have more falsehoods than facts in many cases. And then trying to argue those points becomes very difficult because nobody wants to talk, right? We just want to argue.
More people should listen to your show.
Well, like I said, everybody wants to argue. Yes. And so when you have that kind of attitude, I don't know whose question this is better for, either Ahmad or Mila. When people just want to argue, is it just one of those situations where you just walk away, or is there a way to break through and actually begin to get a dialogue?
I think you really brought up a good point in which how the media are handling this in a way that seems to be dismissive of the other person. Like when they approach these topics, it's a one view that they offer, one perspective that they offer, and it's perspective that's being held consistently throughout their coverage. And I think in these conversations, even though the facts matter, they should not be held as like a cane that we're like beating people that don't agree with us.
Right.
I think the way to get the conversation through that is to actually have established that the breakdown between reality that you want and what's happening right now is because you have a certain expectations of reality. And it's your own expectations. So it's your responsibility to enroll people in your expectations. Like if I want world peace, if I want more immigrants to come in here and settle in a very safe environment, it is my enrollment. The other people didn't enroll. It's not their enrollment. I need to enroll them in my possibility. And I think that's a way to have these conversations.
All right, we'll be right back after the break. I'm your host, Lance Roberts. It is 5:44 on your drive home tonight. Be right back after the break. We're going to wrap up our show with Mila Golovine and Ahmed Abdulmajeed.
You got it.
I got it. Be right back after the break. Don't go away.
Get daily investment news you can use, delivered at the speed of the internet. Sign up for Lance's newsletter now at lancerobertshow.com.